Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Show. It's Corey Sievers here and I'm your host, and we have some interesting things to talk about over the course of this session of the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Show. So if you're new to what we do here in the Savvy team, we're all about helping you reach that next level of health and lifestyle. And so when you tap in with the community, you'll have access to step-by-step action plans, all of the innovative solutions that we provide, as well as all the guidance and support that you need. And so, look, we have some, as I said, some interesting topics that we plan to talk about over the course of this particular session. And so we're going to be talking about erectile dysfunction and how it actually could save your life. And this is, gentlemen or ladies, really important topic for everyone to hear. The G-spot of your blood vessels and why you should care about it. We'll be talking about type 2 diabetes and heart disease and simple steps you can take to gain control, and why repairing your gut can have a huge impact on your all-round health and well-being. So some fun and interesting topics and important topics as well we're going through here in the show. So, you know, what we've been doing a lot lately in the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Show has been a lot more of our masterclass style. So what we've always done is done shorter sort of things broadcast to you over Facebook Live or whatever, like the show. And we've done webinars that had more of the detailed information, masterclass style. So that's where you can come and register for some of our masterclasses via webinar. But what we've done in recent episodes of the show, because we've had so much we wanted to share with you, really important stuff, that they've become more masterclasses because of requests from the community for more information and all that sort of thing. We've just chosen to do that over the show. So we're going back to the original plan with the show from now on, where we're going to be doing more current affairs and news style and less detailed information on the topic. So of course, if you want to know more about any of the topics that we cover on the show, the best thing for you to do is to request an invitation into our community, and we can then tap you in with our private support site and you know, the support that's there for you. So that way we can keep things shorter and sharper and just talk about many different topics here on the show. So that being said too, we would love to hear your feedback. So if you want to know, if you would like to learn about certain topics or you'd like information around a certain area, then do request that. You can do that via the Facebook event page for the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Show. Or of course you can reach out to us in Messenger and make some suggestions. And if you're already part of the community, in the community, of course, you know, we do pay attention to the questions that are coming forward from the community so that we can share them with you and the world, really, about what you can do to reach that next level of health and lifestyle. So yeah, if you are really new to what we do here in the Savvy team, we help you enjoy improved health and lifestyle, and we provide action plans and programs to help you get that done. Here are just some of the wellness plans, everything from looking younger to feeling better, to stress reduction and anti-aging, to you know, Eat Savvy protocol, detox, and weight loss protocol. So really, there is something there, you know, a plan for you to run on, no matter what challenge you might be currently facing with your health and well-being. So we're here to inspire you, to motivate, and to guide you to get to that next level of health and lifestyle. But since we're talking about health topics, it is important that you're aware that all of the information that I'll be sharing reflects my personal research and experience, and anyone else who might be sharing in the comment, it reflects their personal research and experience, and so is intended for educational purposes only and should not be seen as medical advice, and it's not intended to be medical advice or to take away from a proper consultation with a therapist. The information is general in nature, and so all of your individual health concerns have not been taken into account. So any comments and experiences should not be interpreted as medical advice or therapeutic claims. If you have any questions as to the appropriateness of the information with regards to your own personal health and well-being, then do discuss this with your healthcare provider. That all being said, we do encourage you to take self-responsibility for your own well-being, and learn more about this topic, the topics that we're covering, and complementary medicine in general, because you are in control. It's, you know, if you seek help from a practitioner, the biggest challenge that many practitioners face is that people don't take responsibility and are not involved in their own care. So right right here where we assume that would be that you're taking responsibility, because you wouldn't be here to learn more if you weren't someone willing to take responsibility. But look, if there's something that you would like to improve about your health and wellness, then we can definitely guide you there. So welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us here on the show, and we'd love to hear your comments as we go through. If you happen to be jumping on live, then do say hi so I know that you're there. And if you're catching up on the replay, then do still make comments. Let us know. Let us know what your thoughts are, what you'd like to know more about, and participate with us. So there's also a link to our Healthy, Wealthy, Wise group. So if you'd like to take things the step further and begin the process of understanding more about the programs and action plans that we have, then requesting an invitation into our Healthy, Wealthy, Wise group would be wise. And also you can visit the blog and check out some of the programs that we have and information we have there as well. So that's at savvy-team.com/HWW. So interesting topics that we are covering here today on the show. And it's, this first one here, as we talk about erectile dysfunction and how it could save your life, it's an interesting topic. You might sort of be thinking, well, how can erectile dysfunction save my life? Well, again, in our holistic wellness philosophy, we assert that, many of these signs and symptoms that show up, they're warning signs. They're like the dashboard lights flashing on the car. It indicates that something's wrong. And so, when the dashboard light flashes up on the car, it's an early warning sign to do something about it, and then the lights get worse, don't they? So, and then you may end up with engine failure or whatever if you ignore those lights. And you may have had the experience of ignoring a fuel warning light. So you really get to know how low you can go on your fuel in a particular vehicle, paying attention to the warning light and all that sort of thing. So we learn to work with warning lights there and still take action. So why is it that with the warning lights on our body, like signs and symptoms and all those sorts of things, why do we have a tendency as a population to smash that warning light and just sort of get rid of it so that we don't know what's really going on? That's what we assert that we tend to do when we try to mask it with medication or whatever. Now, medication can save a life, but here in the Western world, and certainly we're broadcasting from Australia, but much of Australia, New Zealand, UK, US, all of North, well, mostly probably US. North America. We're in a brilliant system. We have a brilliant medical system for fixing us up when something goes wrong. So if something actually goes wrong, you have a heart attack, for example, we're in a terrific place for our life to be saved. So our modern medicine has just come through with some amazing life-saving strategies. But we're not in a very good situation from a preventative strategy point of view, if you look at the statistics. So the advice we're taking and taking action on isn't helping us to prevent many of these diseases, because they're going up and up and up and up and up. So medicine is not set up as a preventative strategy. It is really a repair strategy when things go wrong. So it's when we think about servicing the car, using that as an analogy, we service the car looking for the signs and symptoms and the warnings and all that sort of thing, to think, okay, what can we do before something goes wrong so we're not left broken down on the side of the road? And yet so many people don't do that with their health. And that's what we really educate you to do, to really start paying attention so that you can progress to that high level of wellness. And this first issue of erectile dysfunction is exactly what we're talking about here, and how erectile dysfunction could actually save your life. Now, the reason that I can say that, why could erectile dysfunction actually save your life? Well, if you think of it as a warning sign of a vascular disease, then it could be very life-saving. I'll cover that right now. This is an important topic because what happens is, I guess it's a little bit of a straight talk about men's health. And, a lot of the times when counselors and everything, they think of erectile dysfunction as a couple's problem, because there can be more going on than just a physical issue. But so it's, and many urologists and therapists and everything would like to see the couple when there is a problem with this. But we're talking here about the actual physiology and the fact that the penis is basically a whole bunch of blood vessels, a whole bunch of capillaries, a capillary network. So in many animals, they actually have a bone, whereas we don't in humans. It's basically pure vascular tissue. And so just like the extremities, you get cold hands and feet, which is a warning sign of vascular health, of not great vascular health. Ulcers on the legs, these sorts of things are warnings of poor vascular health. A malfunctioning or improperly functioning penis is a warning sign. So it could actually save your life by recognizing that getting yourself checked out from a vascular health point of view, from a real cardiovascular health point of view, this warning sign could be a positive indicator. But let's face it, when most guys who do eventually go to the GP's office, they're not. It's not considered to be, let's check you out, let's give you a thorough workover and do some heart tests and all that sort of thing to really look at that. Plus, we don't have most of the testing does not actually look at the real underlying risk factors. So here's the thing. I want you to remember this. Recent research is really showing that ED equals ED. Erectile dysfunction equals endothelial dysfunction. And endothelial dysfunction is really the root cause of cardiovascular disease. So the endothelium is like basically the lining of the blood vessels, and so something goes wrong there, and that becomes permeable, becomes damaged, becomes inflamed, gets hit with oxidative damage or an immune reaction, and so this sets up the disease process of atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease. So any circulatory issue, any circulatory problem, including erectile dysfunction, is actually an early warning sign. So we should be grateful for that rather than upset about it. And that's why we love this particular statement here, that your body will start by whispering, then it'll start talking, and if you don't pay attention, it'll start yelling and shouting, and then you have an illness. So let's go through a little bit more information about just about the prevalence of erectile dysfunction and some of the things that we believe you can do about it. So right now, erectile dysfunction affects 1 in 5 men, and it does increase with age. So when we look at this particular chart here, we see that yes, some younger men that may be not presenting with vascular problems do still suffer from, and there are other causes for erectile dysfunction. But when we look at it, on the most part, as you get older, and your vascular system breaks down, you suffer from free radical damage, oxidative damage, and etc. All of the typical onslaughts of the modern diet, the prevalence increases right across the world. So it doesn't really matter what country you're in. There's a general trend line that as you get older, there's a higher prevalence of vascular problems as well as erectile dysfunction. So, it's, as I said, it's a warning sign of cardiovascular disease, and it's not necessarily treated that way. And the problem is that, there's medications that again can focus on the issue, the symptom, but really, what's the underlying cause? The important thing is to go, okay, so if there's a problem there, what's the underlying cause of the issue? Is it psychological? Is it chemical? Is it hormonal? Or is it vascular? And in the vast majority of the cases, it's actually vascular. And yet we're not focused on it because the urologists are not cardiologists, and that's part of the problem. Our specialist methodology in medicine is what is part of the problem. So this is only picked up in big facilities where they have many different specialists working together, so they can bounce patients backwards and forwards for advice. So yeah, so it's not just a simple stress issue. It's not just a simple lifestyle issue, but it's certainly action steps. You can take action steps to correct the issue And, so if you are suffering, I understand that it's one of the issues that people don't share the information. They don't tag people, and you don't talk about it. We've even worked with herbs and everything in the past for libido and men's function and all this sort of thing. But we actually find that when guys when they understand what the root cause is and follow the Healthy Heart Challenge, along with some other suggestions and even some specific exercises for vascular regeneration, we could say, then they really do get better results there. So if you are struggling with that, then do reach out to us. Perhaps even fill in the how can we help form. That's all confidential, and we can point you in the right direction of that. So, the good news is that when you do take action, things can repair very quickly. Now, I was listening to a urologist just in thinking about this, because we'd had some inquiries about it, and people had heard about, that many community members have said, anecdotally, that when they did the Healthy Heart Challenge, their erections were better. And so because of those sorts of comments, people, have asked a little bit about that. But definitely this urologist I was listening to actually said that here's the challenge. Even when he sees people in his office, he says that only 15% of his patients will make any changes in their diet and lifestyle. The rest just want a quick fix. And it's not even a quick fix. So he was talking about the fact that the solutions are things like penis pumps and, having to put injections teaching people how to give themselves injections into the side of the penis if they want an erection, these sorts of things. So because he said that medication rarely is a good long-term long-term solution. So I was astounded that here is a urologist who deals with this every day, and it's not just the underlying issue, it's, people who are wanting to fix this problem with erectile dysfunction, and only 15% of people actually take any active responsibility in their health and healing. So I guess that's the problem. Here in the Savvy team, we're looking to help you because you are somebody who already takes action and is proactive. So, which comes first when we think about this? Erectile dysfunction and heart disease are considered two signs of the same disease process, and that's why I was saying it could, having erectile dysfunction could save your life because it's warned you. So it's about taking control now. A large study found that men with erectile dysfunction were more likely to die from different heart causes, such as heart attack, stroke, or even be admitted with heart failure. So it was recognized that there's a higher incidence of these diseases. So to reduce your risk, obviously, we do believe that healthy choices, stopping smoking, changing your diet, getting onto a supplement regime to optimize things makes logical sense. Now, here's the interesting statistic that I dug up, that erectile dysfunction precedes coronary artery disease in almost 70% of cases. Erectile dysfunction precedes coronary artery disease in almost 70% of cases. So if cardiovascular disease is the leading killer in the Western world, and if we were to believe all of the marketing and stuff on the internet about pills and herbs and everything that improve your erectile dysfunction, it's a pretty good bet that there are lots of guys out there struggling with this, and they are not aware that at the root cause of it all is a vascular disease. So when it's so basically erectile dysfunction is, we could say, is an indicator of silent cardiovascular disease. So here's another statistic that I saw, that erectile dysfunction usually comes 3 years before a heart attack, making it the most common first sign for men that they may have heart disease. That's why I said erectile dysfunction could save your life, because it encourages you to take action. Another thing that men face is diabetes. Diabetes is a little more frustrating because of the fact that uncontrolled diabetes and blood sugar problems can actually damage the nerves, and this then can cause permanent erectile dysfunction. So uncontrolled diabetes and insulin resistance can damage the vascular system, but worse, it can then damage the nerves, and so basically switch off all possibility of things functioning. So nerve damage, blood flow, really, really important. So and when we think about diabetes and heart disease, which I'll talk about in just in a moment, these are really going together, and many researchers are realizing that they're implicated. In actual fact, Dr. Joseph Kraft believed, maybe aggressively asserted that if you have cardiovascular disease and you have not been diagnosed as a diabetic, you have simply not been diagnosed effectively. Because he saw in looking at as a pathologist, he saw looking at the insulin assays, the insulin response of 15,000 patients, there was definite curves, and the thing is, and most of them are unhealthy. So most people had an unhealthy insulin response, and yet all of our medication focus around diabetics and everything. Type 2, let's say. Type 1, it's an entirely different situation, but type 2 is about reducing their sugar level, which doesn't actually shift mortality, by the way. So anyway, I'm getting into the next section, aren't I? But it's a common complication. Erectile dysfunction is a common complication in diabetes as well. So getting on top of it, what can you do to get on top of it? Well, I would suggest reach out to us and get onto the Healthy Heart Challenge and the guidance there to make the necessary dietary changes and all of this. Really, really important. But some quick tips for you. Change your diet, add in some more healthy fats into your diet. Things like the seeds and the avocados and olives and those sorts of things, raw and uncooked, not undamaged oils, not the inflammatory seed oils. Ghee and saturated fat is not the demon that it's been made out to be. So including some of that is good. Again, there are caveats there depending on your genetic background, etc. But most people do fine doing that. Eliminate the unhealthy sources of trans fats. So basically, if you get rid of all the cookies and you get rid of margarines and you get rid of packaged foods and you don't eat deep fried foods and everything, you're already going to be getting rid of the vast majority of those sorts of things. Hydrogenated fats, all that sort of thing. These all cause inflammation and an insult on the endothelium, the vascular insides of your vascular tissue, really. Cut way back on sugar. Sugar in processed foods, ice creams, cookies, biscuits, cakes, hidden sugars in many processed foods. It has sugar sweetened drinks, juices, all that sort of thing. Unfortunately, sugar is hidden in almost everything and has no nutritional value. And diabetes is on the rise, obesity is on the rise, and the links between heart disease and obesity are very strong, very strong. So next, that would be improving your diet. Number 2 would be exercise. Okay, first, we don't move enough, and so with desk jobs and sitting still and everything, then the circulation to the genital area is limited. And so cardiovascular exercise is great, but weight training, all that sort of thing, losing the belly if you are overweight, and just improving, lots of walking can improve the circulation and open up the vessels in that area. And that's leading to the next one that we're going to be talking about, that G-spot of your vessels. Exercise stimulates the G-spot. But anyway, I'll tell you about that in a moment. Number 3 would be to take the appropriate specific supplements to really look after your vascular system and to look after your health. So there are some herbs, vitamins, nutrients that can improve blood flow and circulation and give you the fastest and best improvement. So also looking at your hormones, making sure that you're not being attacked by a whole bunch of endocrine disrupting chemicals that mess up your hormones and your testosterone, that leads to problems with erectile dysfunction. But as I said, 70% of cases, we're talking about, what are the actual statistics that I was reading to you there? Erectile dysfunction precedes coronary artery disease in almost 70% of cases. And erectile dysfunction usually comes 3 years before a heart attack. So people who have had a heart attack, when asked and when questioned and everything, they can often say, yes, I was having some trouble. Okay, so if you're currently having trouble and everything, don't just mask it with pills and symptom things like that. Don't think that don't think that it's just psychological and all that sort of thing. Although it can be, there's a lot of that there too, and there's a lot of porn-induced erectile dysfunction. They call that PIDE, where basically excess stimulation of the brain and the brain chemicals means that more and more and more stimulation is needed just to obtain an erection or to maintain that erection. So it can be all those sorts of things. But when we see that growth curve in older men and we see these statistics about heart attacks, it's mostly a vascular problem. So if we deal with it from that point of view, thinking about the Pareto principle, 80-20, if we think, okay, the penis is mostly vascular tissue, let's treat it like that and improve our all-round vascular health, and then the flow-on effect that will be better erections, then, that's the 80-20 rule. We're focusing on the thing that will bring the biggest bang in terms of our all-round health and the health of your member, we should say. So, so there's some different ideas for you. I think a few other things I could cover there, but we'll leave it at that. If you do want more information, then do reach out to us and let's get into this conversation about it. But we need to improve blood flow, need to improve your diet, and there are some specific manual exercises that you can do to improve blood flow to the area. Even yoga, stretching, all those sorts of things to open up the pelvis, all that's important, but there are some specific things. So if you are struggling, then try the Healthy Heart Challenge and reach out to us and we can maybe have some conversations privately about that. All right. But in terms of this whole issue of cardiovascular disease, the reason we're big on talking about it is, as Dr. Mark Houston, a leading expert in integrative cardiology, says that if we do the right things, we could reduce the incidence of cardiovascular disease by 80%. And so we do need a bit of a revolution in medicine, and that's why we're calling on communities everywhere to join us in our Healthier Heart movement, really, and educate everybody around them about the importance of taking control. All right, so now it's time to move on to the next hot topic here, and the next hot topic is the G-spot of your blood vessels and why you should care about it. Now, chances are you've not heard that your blood vessels have a G-spot. Well, all right. So that's, since we're talking about erectile dysfunction, it just seemed right to put the G-spot in there. And so the G-spot isn't actually a spot, but if we have a look at this particular image, the G-spot I'm talking about is actually your endothelial glycocalyx. And so it's all these little hairy structures that are actually inside your vessel. So I'm calling that the G-spot of your blood vessels. It's this is only relatively recent information, and most people just sort of think of their vessels as being, hollow tubes and the blood flows through, but they're a lot more active tissue than that. And that's part of the problem with cardiovascular disease. So the endothelial glycocalyx is essentially like a protective non-stick Teflon coating lining your arteries. So, if you've ever done our Healthy Heart Challenge information and that sort of thing, it's like we share in there that people sometimes think or are led to believe that that cholesterol is sort of like fat in soup, where you see the fat floating on the top of the soup and it just slops up against the blood vessel and sticks there, and that's how the clogging happens. Like if you don't wash your pans properly, all of the fat just builds up. It's not like that at all. It's more of a functional problem that goes on. The function of the vessels is damaged. It's not just physically stuck with fat. And so high cholesterol in your blood does not at all equal fat stuck to the side of your arteries, because we've got to look deeper than that, okay? And, and basically, at best, the cholesterol theory of heart disease is old and outdated. At best, we could say that it's incorrect and that saturated fat causes clogged arteries. but we'll just say that it's now outdated information. So we don't want you to be following outdated information. As I said, Dr. Mark Houston is a leading interventional cardiologist and integrative cardiologist. He actually lectures to other practitioners, heads the Hypertension Institute and everything. And so, I'm reporting the news of people that are high up there in cardiovascular disease understanding. So, and so we're really dealing with this. The endothelial glycocalyx is a microscopic layer. So it was not initially understood, but it's sort of like a fine, like hairy structure that senses things inside the artery. And so this G-spot, as I like to call it, you know how I was talking about exercise, if you were catching the section before about erectile dysfunction, the endothelium and the glycocalyx actually senses the movement of blood. So when you're exercising, the glycocalyx actually senses the need for blood flow and opens up the vessel. So it actually through nitric oxide signaling and that, so it opens up the vessels, it dilates the vessels so that the blood flow can get through the capillaries and into the muscles or into the area. So exercise really, really does help. Even just walking and everything opens it up because the glycocalyx is sensing this. Now, if you've stripped away and damaged the glycocalyx, your G-spot, your vessel G-spot, then it doesn't function. Vessels don't open up. It's also if that non-stick coating has been damaged, then things stick. So if you think about it like a non-stick fry pan, if you've probably had the experience of using a non-stick fry pan, and when that non-stick, through what happens with it, through scraping it, through burning it, through not treating it well or whatever, it's become a little bit less non-stick. And then gradually it just gets worse after that point, after it's been damaged. And then food sticks, and then maybe the food has stuck, and then it builds up and everything. Well, this is what's really happened inside your vessels when you've done something that's stripped away and damaged the non-stick coating, the glycocalyx. It's a lot more than a non-stick coating, but if you think about it like that, it's an easy way of understanding what we do. So what happens is it regulates the vascular permeability and fluid balance. So it sort of regulates what gets into the endothelium, and it provides a physical barrier that stops the adhesion of things such as platelets and leukocytes, and stops the actual process of cardiovascular disease. It also, the glycocalyx is indicated in regulating the coagulation of blood. So when you think about a heart attack, what's happened is the glycocalyx has been stripped away, possibly in that region. Damage to the endothelial layer has occurred, and so the plaque's building up in that particular layer. But with no glycocalyx, with no G-spot, the vessel can't dilate. The vessel can't also release particular components that help to stop the coagulation. So we end up with a blockage. So we end up with the inflamed artery, the clogged artery, and a blood clot. So it's all implicated in the same thing. This glycocalyx is a very important structure, and you've probably never heard of the G-spot. Your doctor's probably never told you about that. And this has been well researched, well documented. So, we've got to look after the health of the glycocalyx if we want to look after our own all-round health. So it also functions as a sensor for shear force. So, as I mentioned there, the force of blood going through and can regulate nitric oxide release and therefore open up the vessels. So they sense a lot of things. This G-spot's pretty important stuff. And so as you can imagine, like any G-spot, these are sensitive. The glycocalyx is a sensitive structure, sensitive to damage. So what are the things that have identified as being the biggest things that will mess up the glycocalyx? Oxidative damage. Smoking just rips it apart. Okay, inflammation. Constantly eating inflammatory foods. high sugar, high blood glucose, and insulin problems. So we've got the same sorts of things that we've been talking about that goes on, that damages the glycocalyx. It's a sensitive structure. So that's why it's been damaged to the glycocalyx, has been implicated in heart disease, in renal diseases, in stroke, etc. So what we've got to do is, in fact, there was a paper that I'd read that said very clearly, published back in 2008. So if you haven't heard about it, it's well documented. The only reason, what I mean by you haven't heard about it, most people wouldn't have heard about this. But I'm talking about if you're struggling with cardiovascular disease or wanting to prevent it and everything, this is an important thing to know. The reason you don't hear about it, in my opinion, is because there isn't a simple medication or treatment to build the glycocalyx back. It's a lifestyle change, okay? So that's why we don't, there isn't a simple fix, you don't hear about it. If there isn't a medication, you don't hear about it. So arterial, this is what the study said. Arterial glycocalyx dysfunction is the first step in the atherothrombotic process. So in other words, your vessel G-spot is where heart disease all begins. Pretty important thing to know about this G-spot if it's where all of your heart disease actually begins. So what messes it up? Poor lifestyle, high sugar, inflammatory diet, grains, bad seed oils, lack of antioxidants and all that sort of thing. That's why if you're not following, people often say, oh, look, I won't supplement, it's a waste of money or whatever, some people. And news reports say this, which is ridiculous, because studies show that most Australians don't eat enough fruit and vegetables, so they're not getting anywhere near the antioxidants. So why not supplement to prevent heart disease and then give yourself a bit of time to improve your diet? But anyway, that's the G-spot of your blood vessels, the endothelial glycocalyx. So let's talk now about type 2 diabetes. It's all of these topics are somewhat implicated, and if you have any questions, then do certainly, please ask as we go along. So type 2 diabetes and the simple steps that you can take to gain control. Now, this is another one that's pretty difficult, to deal with, because many people aren't willing to change their diet. And so they, of course, need to be treated by the doctor. Okay, so when I'm talking about type 2 diabetes here, certainly we have seen many type 1 diabetics become less brittle when they really look after their health. They understand some of the same sorts of things. They use nutrition, trace mineral supplementation, that sort of thing. They can really be less, they can be more stable and less brittle. And of course, if you have diabetes, then supplementation to protect your nerves and vessels is very important if you have type 1 diabetes. So that can make a big work. Lots of community members have worked with their doctors to stabilize their health and still control their diabetes. But we're talking here about type 2 diabetes, and type 2 diabetes has somewhat been asserted to be a chronic lifelong condition. And it used to be called adult onset diabetes because you rarely saw it in children, whereas now we're seeing it in children. So what's changed? We're eating far too many carbohydrates is the simple thing. So what type 2 diabetes type of medication tends to do is just to try to reduce the glucose level, just reduce the sugar, okay? And that has shown to not decrease mortality. So it's decreased the symptom of the problem, but it hasn't improved the outcome for the patient. And that's well documented too. So we're treating the symptom without any hope of it making any difference in us. And so that's just ridiculous. That's what is happening with medication right now. And this was, as another lecturer I was listening to, this was a researcher, Dr. Joshua Beckman, was actually saying this, and he said, I actually think that giving people extra insulin is the problem. So, and because what we end up setting up is an insulin resistance. So we just think about this. So my cup of coffee here. Now, at the moment, I drink coffee, some black coffee there. Good quality coffee. I like it, so I will give you all the reasons for the antioxidant benefits and the fact that it's been researched that people who drink coffee have less mortality, and I can give you all the benefits and everything. But of course, if you overdo it, then the caffeine can cause problems. So let's just talk about caffeine or any drug. So if you've ever had the experience with coffee and everything, if you keep drinking it consistent for a long time and then maybe increase it and then maybe increase it, we find that the amount of that drug doesn't work over time, and we want a bit more, and we want a bit more, and we want a bigger hit, and we want a bigger hit. So that's the problem, and then we end up in a really addicted state. Or let's say we just dropped it altogether, then we suffer from withdrawals and those sorts of things. Well, so we become, in essence, caffeine resistant. So we need more caffeine in order to be able to do the same job. It's like that with any medication, for that matter. And so it's the same thing with insulin. So if you've over time you've just been on a high sugar diet, high sugar, lots of carbs, your body's just constantly producing insulin, and this is sort of part of the mechanism. I'm simplifying things a bit, but part of the mechanism that leads to what's called insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is part of the problem with obesity and heart disease rates and all of these sorts of things. So we don't, type 2 diabetes we're talking about here, and this is very, very well implicated in triggering more problems with heart disease. So what can we do to gain control? Well, many people have kicked it. I was even just talking with someone at the gym the other day, and he gave up all of the drinking. He gave up drinking alcohol. He was on medication for type 2 diabetes. He gave up. I said, look, most guys, and he was looking to lose weight and everything, and I said, most guys, if they simply stop drinking calories of all sorts, so that's beer, juice, soft drink, all that sort of thing, if they just stop drinking calories, especially the carbohydrate calories, most of the time they'll start to gradually move towards a normal weight. So he did that, and his doctor took him off the type 2 diabetes medication. All he did was stop drinking beer and soft drink and juice, and his doctor took him off the medication. So, and he asked the doctor, so why didn't you just tell me to do that without the medication? And the doctor said most people won't change their lifestyle. That's obviously not you, or you wouldn't be here watching this particular information. So I'll come back around to that as to what some of the action steps are. But simple steps: dramatically drop your sugar consumption. Okay? Look for hidden sugars. Stop drinking your calories in sugar. Get rid of the juices, the drinks, the rich smoothies that are so full of sugar. People go out and have a healthy smoothie, and it is loaded with carbohydrates. And not only that, but in a situation where it's often not other things to blunt the response, and so it spikes your blood sugar and causes more hunger, and then you overeat, etc. All right, so the next topic here is repairing the gut. Why repairing the gut can have a huge impact on your all-round well-being. So another important topic here, and it's having a healthy gut is more than just getting rid of bloating and indigestion and heartburn and these uncomfortable situations, constipation, all that sort of thing. What happens is, because your gut's really connected to everything, you can really take significant control of your health by doing something with your gut health. It's connected to everything in your body. And that's why we see that many community members, when they overcome, they don't even have to treat a condition. They overcome unexpected things because their overall health is improved. So fixing your gut, doing a detox, sometimes just a great initial step if you don't know what else to do to improve your health. So the gut determines what nutrients are absorbed, what toxins, allergens, and microbes are kept out. It's directly linked to the health of your whole body. So, has a particularly large impact on your body. Digestion, absorption, all of these sorts of things. Assimilation of food, so important. So there are bugs in your gut that form a diverse and varied ecosystem, sort of like a forest in a way. So all of the gut bugs, your microbiome, really, it's a huge forest of bacteria that have a function that help to digest your food, regulate your hormones, deal with and excrete toxins, produce vitamins, and a whole bunch of other healing compounds that can really help the health of your body and prevent disease as well. So the ecosystem is important for balance. What we've found is that, obviously too many of the wrong bacteria, yeasts, fungus, pathogens, worms, parasites, all that sort of thing, and not enough of the good ones, that's where we get into this dysbiosis as such, this imbalance. So a couple of the best ones to bring back balance, to fight back, are lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. And there are some specific strains that we work with that have been proven to be the best ones at fighting back and regaining control. So a lot of the information nowadays are on get a broad spectrum. Well, if you are in a situation where you're out of balance, bringing in a committee of probiotics is not going to get you back on track. If you try to get a decision made through a committee, it is not going to happen. Someone has to be in control. So when you put a committee of probiotics in there, whilst that is important over the long term to increase the diversity of your microbiome, to win the war, you need a couple of generals coming in there to really say, right, this is what's going on. Here's the new world order here in the gut. And there are a couple of specific strains of lactobacillus and bifidobacterium that actually do that brilliantly and has been documented by food scientists here in Australia. So that's what we use. Anyway, but keeping a balance of bugs in the intestine is so good for a whole range of things that you may not think are associated with your gut. So eczema, psoriasis, arthritis, so all of the skin problems, these are all autoimmune conditions and there's so immunity. There are so many things that are actually that poor gut health is implicated in. So, really what it comes down to is that, again, sort of like we were talking about when we damage the endothelium, the inside layer of the blood vessels, then bad particles can penetrate into the wall of the vessel and turn into a plaque. The same sort of thing, if we damage the internal lining of our gut with poor food choices, inflammatory agents and all that sort of things, chemicals and everything, then that can become permeable or leaky. That's where the term leaky gut came from. So we can loosen the tight junctions and let certain food particles and bugs and things get into our bloodstream, and that triggers an autoimmune condition and rampant problems and inflammation within the body. So we've got to heal and seal the gut, really, and that's what our gut repair protocol is all about too, by the way. So there's also your second brain, and so no, we were talking about erectile dysfunction earlier, and so no, it's not that your penis has a brain, it's your gut has a brain. And so it's known as the enteric nervous system there. And it's a very sophisticated piece of physiology there, which really wires your gut to your brain. So messages are constantly traveling back and forward between your gut brain and your head brain. And when those messages are interfered with, then that's when your health suffers. So we need to get rid of the toxins. So I guess going through some steps there. First we've got to look at improving the gut bugs. Second, we've got to understand that there is a gut immune system there, and that's important. Third, we've got to understand the gut-brain connection that's going on there, and that's why we can actually improve lots of foggy thinking and clarity of thought and everything by healing and repairing our gut. And fourth, there's also a lot of toxic byproducts that are produced, and if we don't have a healthy gut, these can get into our system and cause us health problems. So, and last, I guess, is that if your gut isn't functioning properly, it's not going to break down the nutrients that you need. So you might be eating everything that you need, but not absorbing it, not assimilating it, and so it's going to waste. You might be on a good diet, but it's not really doing the job. And this is, the diet is very, very important to change, to take control. But supplementation just, hastens the results, speeds up the process. gives you things that were not normally in your diet that can heal. And that's the whole thing with probiotics. Yes, here in the Savvy team, we recommend fermented foods and, sauerkraut and kimchi and these sorts of things to help and good prebiotic fibers from lots of rich vegetables to bring about the balance of maybe a little bit of raw dairy, to bring about a balance in the whole microbiome. But to take control, if you're sick, you don't want to wait for months and months and months and months and months for that to take control. Why not take control using a supplement and then maintain with good diet? So that's why we have action plans and programs to help you really take control and then venture there quickly, and then gives you a chance to improve your lifestyle over time. So to get you back on track, you need to get your gut out of balance and into a good balance. And here's a bit of a short list. So you need to, get rid of the low fiber, high sugar, nutrient poor diet. Causes all the wrong bacteria to grow. You need to avoid the constant overuse of certain medications that can damage the gut. Now, obviously, we're not saying at all to go off any medications. Work with your doctor if you're on a medication, but a lot of these things are over-the-counter things. So, for example, anti-inflammatory medications blow holes in your gut, really, like Nurofen and these non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. They do a nasty number on your gut. So if you need them at a particular point, then that's understandable. But when you're on it each and every day, this is when we have problems, okay? So they're far from safe. And so just, again, if you're having constant aches and pains, this is the problem. If you're having constant aches and pains, then you could have leaky gut and inflammatory situation being set up in your body through, anti-nutrients like lectins and the grain, the phytates and oxalates and all sorts of things. So follow the Eat Savvy diet, be really strict with yourself, heal and seal your gut, and you might find you don't have the aches and pains and need the anti-inflammatory. That was my personal story. Many people say, you need grains, you need carbs, everybody needs these sorts of things and all. So, okay, well, great. And there's nothing wrong with vegetables. I used to be there too. So I used to have grains and say, there's nothing wrong with this grain, but I don't eat bread and all that sort of thing. And there's nothing wrong with all the Mediterranean vegetables. They're really good for you, all the reasons and everything. And yet I was still getting suboccipital headaches. This was my point of weakness there. So I went to all of the experts, all the physiotherapists, all of the chiropractors of many different varieties, all to say there must be something wrong with my atlas. I mustn't be right. I had all of the x-rays, all the movement, everything. So there's nothing that tracks perfectly well. You don't have any issues there. That's not your issue. You have an issue down here and you have an issue down here, but that's not your issue. I said, I know, but this is where they couldn't actually tell me why I had the pain. So again, constant research and education and teaching you these sorts of things. Even just I was dealing with people that were suffering from joint discomfort. And I just said, look, you need to really look at maybe giving up things like the grains and, getting onto our optimized collagen supplementation, but also give up the grains, give up the nightshade vegetables, and give up some of the other inflammatory seed oils and all these sorts of things, and just see how you go. And they found that was just incredible. And I realized that I was not on the inflammatory seed oils. I'd given up most grains, but I had never, ever in my life given up nightshade vegetables. So they're things like capsicum, eggplant, tomatoes, potatoes, chilies, all these sorts of things, zucchinis. We could extend it to going zucchinis and some of the other lectin-containing things, although they're not typical nightshades. Zucchinis and even pumpkin. And so I went onto a strict program of avoiding really eating savvy, avoiding all of the things that might contain lectins and anti-nutrients and all the nightshades. And my headaches totally disappeared. There's only one thing that I know that now sets it off, and that's certain workout things, if I overdo it, that cause just a lot of tension in the shoulder region. So I totally eliminated that with eliminating nightshade vegetables. So So if you're suffering from any of those aches and pains and joint discomfort and headaches and migraines and fibromyalgia and muscle aches and autoimmune conditions and all that sort of thing, I'm not suggesting doing a gut repair protocol would be really, really sensible, but start with the free Eat Savvy diet and eliminate all of those foods. And, you might be just as surprised as me. Anyway, that was a little bit of of course, because many people who need Nurofen, that was all about the avoiding Nurofen, and not just Nurofen, but any non-steroidal anti-inflammatory ibuprofen type of thing that really can damage the gut. So many people who've really cleaned up their diet, done the gut repair protocol, have eliminated the need for these medications that then damage the gut. So again, other things, antibiotics, steroids, contraceptive pill, these all over time do damage the gut. Now, I understand if you're using, ladies, if you're using the contraceptive pill for contraception, then of course, that's, you continue to do that or work with a doctor and make a decision on whatever process moving forward there. But the sad thing is that many people are on the contraceptive pill for off-label benefits, and we don't really think that's wise. Like just to balance their period or whatever, that's not wise. There are other ways to do that than to use a medication that then damages the gut and leads to further problems. So again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm sharing my own personal opinion here, what's worked for other community members. So you make your own decision moving forward, and just take all of this, under advisement. So undetected, another thing that's a real damager to the gut is the undetected gluten intolerance, celiac disease, or any other low-grade food allergy, dairy, corn, eggs, those sorts of things. So easiest is elimination diet. Follow the Eat Savvy approach. It works for most people. That's why it's been put together. It's the best way forward for most people. All right, so toxins also problematic, and yeasts and fungus, trying to avoid all of those sorts of things. Lack of adequate digestive enzyme function can be a problem too for the gut. Stress, that can be a problem. So anyway, whatever, there's lots of different steps to help you improve your gut, and certainly dietary changes make a big difference, but supplements also do. So try the gut repair protocol for 30 days and see how you go. Okay, it might not be enough to fix your gut, but it's a terrific start. So Eat Savvy, download the free Eat Savvy diet, eliminate the food allergens, get on top of the bugs. We don't tend to recommend a parasite purge for most people up front nowadays because people are so much more toxic. So the gut, we used to have a 3-month better digestion and intensive gut healing and parasite purge program, and we still do that, but we've recognized with so many people being so reactive nowadays and suffering from ill health, the gut repair protocol is sort of like a first step, a more gentle first step. Some people choose to do the more extensive detox as well, just as a first step, but without actually getting in there and purging out the parasites. So you want to replenish your digestive enzymes, get good fat, improve your gut function over time, and it will take a little bit of time. But the interesting thing is that your health could improve incredibly. Many people lose weight even just on the gut repair protocol, on our detox. So you could notice that improves. Your skin could improve. Your eyesight could improve. People say that they feel they have clearer vision because, again, if your system isn't overloaded and you're not absorbing toxins and your liver's not overloaded because of leaky gut and everything, then the liver is connected to eyesight in the Chinese methodology. And so people notice that their eyesight clears up or they have less problems with their eyes when they're looking after their gut. So a whole bunch of information for you there on repairing the gut. If you are looking for a step-by-step action plan, then reach out to us, get onto our gut repair protocol, and we can help you out there. So look, if you want to know more about the cardiovascular disease warning signs, I was talking about this before about erectile dysfunction equals endothelial dysfunction. ED, erectile dysfunction is just another warning sign for cardiovascular disease. You can check out our free online class related to that issue. But what we're really doing here is, in essence, if we were to decrease all man-made and natural toxins and increase all of the micronutrients, whether it be from diet and supplements, then that is in essence the path forward for optimal well-being. Okay, so how do we, and that's what the Eat Savvy approach is all about. So how do we attack this from a Pareto principle point of view? You know, the 80-20 rule. And what's the minimum, what are some of the most important things that we could do to get most of the results in terms of the dietary changes? So we put together action plans and programs to get to, for certain areas, to give you the most important things to get the maximum impact for those particular areas. So the Healthy Heart Challenge, the Gut Repair Protocol, the PMS Relief Action Plan, these sorts of things, the detox. We're giving you some specific Pareto principle types of, the 80-20 rule things, the things that will give you the biggest impact in the shortest period of time. But what can you do right now with your diet that could improve all of these things? We've been talking about endothelial dysfunction and erectile dysfunction. We've been talking about the G-spot of your blood vessels, the endothelial glycocalyx. We've been talking about type 2 diabetes, and we've been talking about the gut. What would be simple dietary 80-20 rule, the 20% that would, of simple steps that would get massive change in your health and life from a diet point of view? So I'm not going into the supplements. There are a few supplements that could give you the maximum bang for your buck in terms of that. But what other things that can really help in terms of your dietary changes? Well, this is what we have seen. The 3 Pareto principle diet changes that will have the biggest impact on your life. Get rid of sugars of all kinds. So artificial sweeteners, normal table sugar, high fructose corn syrup, sometimes moving to maple syrup, honey, some of these other safer sweeteners. So look at the Eat Savvy diet. You'll see the spectrum of sweeteners there. Get rid of the bad ones. Number 2, get rid of all grains. Forget that, many people who are gluten intolerant move on to other packaged food that still messes them up and triggers inflammation. They're no longer reacting to the gluten, but they're not healing their gut either because all the other grains have inflammatory properties. Now, on that, it's okay. A bit of basmati rice with your curry every couple of weeks and everything. If you don't have problems with your weight, no problem with that. There are certain things you can do a little bit of. So every now and then I make a couscous-like dish with millet. So with cooked millet. And so it's less inflammatory. So I will use that hulled millet and turn that into a sort of like a Moroccan couscous-y type of dish. So that's a bit of grain here and there, but it's not a staple in my diet. And I don't think, when we look at the Pareto principle and what makes the biggest difference here, getting rid of grains makes the biggest difference for people. It's just super simple. Difficult to do if you've been addicted, just like giving up caffeine or any other medication, any other drug. And then number 3 would be get rid of all inflammatory vegetable oils. So, that means looking at labels. It means not cooking in soybean oil, not getting deep fried foods, not doing that. But then there's the hidden oils. Just like there are hidden sugars, there are the hidden oils. So, I said the other day, I've done hummus recipes recently and put them out over social media and whatnot. And I used to work in a Mediterranean restaurant, so it's pretty easy for me. I just chuck it all in there, boom, done. Oh, that tastes great. So I understand if you're looking for recipes. So we're really here in the Savvy team at the moment, looking to do what we can to provide really easy recipes for you to change your diet. But why would you want to make your own when it's cheap to buy, for example? Why would you not want to buy hummus in the supermarket or whatever? Because you look at the label and it's basically full of vegetable oil. Okay, so many people are still, they're saying, I don't fry, I don't do this, I don't have deep fried food and everything. yet they're still loading up on inflammatory oils, or they still have packaged food that contains margarine, hydrogenated vegetable oils, and all of these sorts of things, the hidden oils. So again, when you give up packaged food, that's almost a Pareto principle dietary change, because you get rid of grains, you get rid of sugars, you get rid of inflammatory seed oils. So what's the last one? Oh, the last one was the inflammatory seed oils. So there you have it. And so when you follow the Eats Heavy approach, you're basically getting rid of a whole bunch of nasties and improving the nutrient profile as well. So we did a whole session on the Healthy Wealthy Wise show called Foods That Heal, Foods That Kill. You might want to check that out. But again, if there's something that you'd like to improve about your health and lifestyle, then we can certainly help. We have a whole range of action plans to help you, reach that next level of health and wellness. So how can we help you? What is it that, venture to our site, savvy-team.com, click on request an invitation, fill out the how can we help form, and let's work out a plan. It may be the gut repair protocol. We did a special session on the gut repair protocol, so you might want to check that out. We have the detox. You have a number of community members doing the detox right now and getting some great results, losing weight, improving their skin conditions, those sorts of things. We have the rapid fat loss protocol, which is our fastest method of you being able to get back into safe weight loss zones, and it's a cyclical based program. So you go on and then come off it, go back on, come back off it until you reach your ideal weight. So a number of different programs there for you. But look, in all of this, what's been the key breakthrough for you? What's been something that has really stood out for you? What are your insights, your inspirational ideas that have come forward? We'd love to hear from you, and also let us know what are some of the other things that you'd like to know about. So look, for your best wellness journey, you want a plan, and that's why we put together all of these action plans and programs and really have all of this stuff there for you. So the plans are there. You'll want a plan. You'll want to have some sort of track to run on. You'll need some specific solutions. You'll want some guidance, and you'll want community. So a lot of people come up with a plan, and maybe find some specific solutions like product solutions and dietary solutions there, but they lack the guidance in the community. So they're trying to go it alone, traipsing through the wellness jungle, shall we say. So if you want to cut through all the confusion and have a guiding hand in the process of achieving wellness, then we can help. Become part of our community, and let's get you going towards that high level of health. So request an invitation into the community, and we can take it from there. So look, thanks for being part of the show. It's great to have you with us here, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments and any insights that have been a real breakthrough for you. So I'm going to jump on into the Healthy Wealthy Wise group right now, if you actually are a member of the Healthy Wealthy Wise group, and just share some further insider tips on some of these wellness programs and action steps moving forward on what we've just covered. So come on, join us in there if you have access. Otherwise, request an invitation, and we'll be able to get you in there at some stage. So that's it from me here. It's Corey Sievers with the Healthy Wealthy Wise Show, encouraging you to be savvy. So all the best. We'll catch you again next time around.